We have reached yet another international break, and for me, that sparks a moment of reflection. It's time to look back, it's time to analyse, it's time to look at the bigger picture, and that's what we're doing here today. Got a tier list ranking every major Premier League summer signing from last year. We've seen enough from all of them at this stage. We're coming towards the final stretch of the season, so I think it's a good time to honestly rank all the major signings. So, I will say that my major signings, I've only included every player that was transferred for a fee of £35 million or more. So there is obviously a few big wigs that aren't going to be on here. Think of Sonny Lamans, Ryan Cherky, obviously Semenyo. He only happened in January. I'm just focusing on the summer signings from last year because I think we have enough of a sample size to honestly rank these players. 4 tiers. We got top drawer, successful, remains to be seen, and failure. You don't want to be in that F spot, but unfortunately there is more than a few names who I have going in that F spot. As always, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts. But yeah, enough of that. Let's get right into it. Okay, first one up is Xavi Simons. Now, it was like fun when Spurs signed him, but it was also a desperate move after Eberechi Eze decided to join Arsenal instead of Tottenham. And unfortunately, he just has not managed to nail down at the starting spot. We've seen him be underwhelming more than we've seen him be impressive. And it's just been really, really tough. And of course, he's playing in a Tottenham team that are desperate for creation. And he still can't find a way to nail down a starting spot in that team. This is a team that is desperate for a creative force. No Kulusevski, no James Maddison. And yet still, they are finding a way to leave Xavi Simons on the bench. And that kind of just says everything about what his season at Spurs has been like. So unfortunately, he is the first man to go into the failure category. I'm sorry, Xavi. There's nothing else to say. You came for a big fee. You failed to deliver. I know you're playing in a struggling Tottenham team, but you should be a shining light in that struggling team in the way we've seen a Gibbs White or Somerville be for the other struggling teams in the Premier League relegation battle, and you just have not stepped up to the level. So unfortunately, yes, you belong in the failure category. Next up is Benjamin Sesko. This is a really interesting one. You could go a lot of different ways. You could honestly say top drawer for his performances since the turn of the year. You could drop him in the successful category because he has been ultimately a successful signing for Manchester United, netting 10 goals so far in his debut campaign. Or you could even put him in the remains to be seen because he hasn't been a nailed-on starter. He had his struggles earlier on in the season. There's lots of different ways you could go with Benjamin Sesko, but for me, it's been a successful signing. So I'm putting him in that successful category. And I believe he is either going to cement his place in that category or even rise above that between now and the end of the season and throughout his Manchester United career. He has done some great things this year. Obviously, it was a struggle early part of the year. It was a little bit similar to Rasmus Højlund. We were kind of looking at him thinking, God, he's just a yard off. Everything just looks a little bit too hard for him at this level. But then the turn of the year came and he really turned it around and he's come into some serious form. He scored 8 goals since January. He's turned himself into a super sub for Manchester United, come up with some really crucial goals in their battle to find Champions League football next year. And I think you have to put him in that successful category just for the manner of goals that he scored. You think the Everton game, you think of Fulham, you think of the equaliser against West Ham, you think the winner against Palace, even coming off the bench and getting that crucial 3rd goal against Aston Villa. He has stepped up for Manchester United in big moments, and I think he belongs in that successful category. I'm interested to see what you guys say on that. I could understand if you maybe wanted to drop him down to remains to be seen, as of course he still isn't a nailed-on starter. He is more of a super sub type of player at Manchester United for right now. But for me, maybe my bias is coming into a little bit. You guys let me know in the comments. But yeah, Benjamin Sesko, definitely a successful signing for me. Next up, Anthony Elanga. And I think we all know where this one's going. Anthony Elanga has been pretty much a dud since arriving at Newcastle. Unfortunately, Newcastle's summer business last year was just not very good. It was obviously hit by them losing Alexander Isak so late, but pretty much all the top targets that they went for decided to go elsewhere because ultimately Newcastle were not able to pay the wages necessary to bring in the top talent. and they had to shop in the B market, and that's where Anthony Elanga came in. I know he had a good year at Forest last year, assist-wise. He was a very creative force for them in their push, and they ultimately finished 6th in the league, I think was their final place, and he was good. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why he never made it at Manchester United, and he was never really going to deliver, trying to make that step back up to a team in the Champions League, and hopefully to be in the Champions League places and believing that they should be there with the expectation on his shoulders. He has failed to nail down that right wing spot, even over Jacob Murphy. He has not delivered consistently in any way, shape or form. Has 0 goals and 1 assist in the Premier League. That's absolutely awful for a player that cost, I think, £50 million. That's just not good enough. Really, really disappointing from Elanga this year. I know he obviously had his great moment against in that Barcelona game. It looked like he was keeping Newcastle in it as they were 2-2. But also they fade away. That's a game where he's going to be able to thrive because he is so quick, and that Barcelona playing that high line, they play into all of his strengths. But for the most part, he's a bit of pace, a little bit of flair, but not a whole lot of end product. And for Newcastle, they're really kind of seeing that now this season. Not been good enough at all. Absolutely, he is going in the failure category. Sorry, Elanga. You had your good year at Forest. I just don't think you were ready to make the step back up, and yeah, your stats are absolutely showing that. Next up, Martin Zubamendi. And for me, this is the first one that's going to go into the top drawer category. This might be a bit of a bold call, but I really do believe he has been a great signing, and I believe he is a fantastic fit beside Declan Rice. The only reason why maybe we don't think of Arsenal's midfield as being as great as it should be is because they haven't been completed yet. Eze's been in and out of the team, Odegaard in and out of the team. They haven't really found that third player, that number 10, to really thrive with that midfield. Like, imagine you throw like a Bruno Fernandes into the Arsenal team, and you're talking about Arsenal's midfield as being second to none, maybe even the best in world football. That's how good I think the base of Rice and Zubamendi are. And he's come up with some crucial goals at Arsenal. Yeah, I know it's not always been perfect, but I think he's been an underrated member of their midfield. I think he's been a huge part of what they've been able to do and why they've been so solid. I know their defense is good, but that starts with their midfield. The way that Rice and Zubamendi cover the ground and play through transitions. They're both top quality players. Zubamendi deserves a lot of credit. I know we obviously shine the light more on Rice because he is more of the star. He is obviously English as well, so he's going to get more of a shining light. But Zubamendi, he really broke out when we saw him come in and replace Rodri for Spain during the Euros, which they went on to win, and he was fantastic. He was meant to go to Liverpool, didn't happen. Arsenal swooped in, they've signed him, and he has just been a superb player for them. I think he belongs in that top drawer category. I think he's been great for them, and Arsenal fans, I'm interested to see your thoughts. I know a lot of people weren't too happy with his performance in the League Cup final, but that could be said for a lot of players for Arsenal on that day. But for me, yeah, I think top drawer player, and I think underrated part of his game is the goal scoring. He's really stepped up with some crucial goals for Arsenal this year. Quality player. Next up, we've got Nottingham Forest and Amari Hutchinson. And I'm going to make this one quick. And yep, take your spot there in the failures. 37.5 million, completely failed to deliver. I mean, I don't know why people thought he was so great at Ipswich last year. He really didn't do much during Ipswich's time in the Premier League, and Forest went out and splashed big money on him. Obviously, they needed to replace Elanga, but he's just been bad. He really hasn't done anything for me. There's just not much to say on him. It's been a disappointing signing. I know Forest are only going to be able to sign players from your Ipswiches and lesser clubs than them, but yeah, I feel like just a wrong decision from Forest, and that's one of the reasons why they're in trouble, because they did not invest well this offseason. Forest had one of the worst summer windows in my opinion, and Amari Hutchinson is arguably the flag boy for that. Next up, we have Gerald Hato. Again, another one that I know this might be a little bit harsh, but for me, he's going into the failure category. Obviously, this is a bit tough. Still such a young player, but he arrived for a big fee, and he really hasn't been able to establish himself within this Chelsea team at all. Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly tough to do. Maybe this is a little bit harsh for me. Maybe I should be having him in the remains to be seen category. But for me, it's just been bad. Like, what has he done? A lot of people are probably hearing that name and saying, and they're kind of like, who? What have we seen from him? Hasn't been able to nail down a position in the Chelsea backline, which has obviously been struggling for especially the second half of the season for sure. And yeah, just another one where you're just kind of scratching your head and like, why have Chelsea signed this player? Hopefully it's just he's still, like, we know, a young player. Maybe he'll grow into something. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. I'm interested to see what Chelsea fans think. Should maybe he be in the remains to be seen category? Definitely doesn't belong in the top drawer successful category. Maybe putting him into failures, maybe a little bit harsh because he is still such a young player and he hasn't got maybe the rub of the green from either of his managers that he's had. But really just a disappointing season from him so far, and I just expected more. The transfer fee they paid, I know he's still young, but I expected him to do more and maybe at least kind of establish himself more within the Chelsea backline, who, like I mentioned, they don't exactly have any star players at the centre back. They need more, and he's still flat out to the sieve. So unfortunately for me, failure category. Next one is an interesting one. Matheus Cunha. Obviously, he started off like a house on fire at Spurs, looked fantastic. He had 6 goal contributions in his first 7 games, but after that, just 2 goal contributions in his next 13, and then he's been out since January 4th. And unfortunately, a guy like Kudus, when he is good, he is really, really good. He is absolute box office, great player. But when he's bad, he's really, really bad, and he's not really going to offer anything for you. I liken him to Alan St. Maximin, who used to play at Newcastle. There's a reason why these guys fade away when teams start to get better, when teams start to play at a higher level. These sorts of players fade away. And I think Kudus is a similar sort of player. When the pressure is really on, when you need him to consistently deliver and be relied on, he's just not that guy. Unfortunately, I know the injuries have played a part, and that hasn't been great. Like, it would be great if Spurs could call upon him at the moment to just deliver even 1 or 2 moments, to just get them over the line and save them from relegation. Not happening right now. Injuries have played a part, but I just think he doesn't have enough end product. He doesn't have that consistency in his game to warrant the big fee that Spurs paid from him, and the struggles that they're having, they really needed more from him. So I'm actually going to put him into the failure category as well. That might be a little bit harsh. I'm interested to see what people think, but consistency is everything, and that's where we really kind of draw the line on good players and bad players. And I think Kudus consistently falls below that line, so that's why he belongs in the fail category. And also, with Spurs' struggle, it's kind of hard to say any of their signings have really been a success. Next up, we have the second biggest signing of last summer after Alexander Isak. Liverpool's other major swing, Florian Wirtz. And he is going to be the first member of the remains to be seen category. Get him in there. Wirtz has struggled. He looks like he's struggled to adapt to the physicality of the Premier League. There was a brief moment where he seemed to be adapting, and he was kind of delivering with some sort of consistency and sort of showing flashes of the player that Liverpool signed, the player that we saw playing for Bayer Leverkusen. But he hasn't really been able to nail that down. Obviously missed a couple of games, and then since he's come back, he's just been really kind of inconsistent. The moments that he's had in front of goal, it's been rough finishes. It's been trying to do that extra pass, trying to do everything perfect. He's just not what you want to have in your number 10. He's not just kind of throwing caution to the wind and just trying things. He's enough. And maybe that's coming from Arne Slot. Maybe Arne Slot is encouraging him to do that. But he's just like overcorrecting because he's not like maybe delivering. He's not playing with that fluidity. He's not as comfortable as he was in the Bundesliga. It feels like he's overcorrecting too much. So he's trying to play that extra pass when a shot might be on or a game-breaking pass might be on. He's like, nah, I'll just play a little side pass and we'll get down the wing and hopefully it will still work out into a goal. It's like he's afraid to make mistakes, and if your number 10 is afraid to make mistakes, you're not going to have a lot of success, and that's what we're seeing with Liverpool. They've really struggled this year. They've been inconsistent in attack. Obviously, they've been awful defensively. That's not on Florian Wirtz. That's just on the team as a whole. But their inconsistency in attack, and that largely comes from Wirtz. There is an argument that you could say that they're not truly playing through him. Like Liverpool last year, it was very much about getting the balls forward as quick as possible, playing through their elite wide players. But they've lost Luis Diaz. Mo Salah is not the player that he once was, and they haven't really found a way to transition to playing through Wirtz, which is what they ultimately have to do. You don't sign a player like Florian Wirtz unless you're going to embody your whole attack around that type of player, and that's the next step that needs to happen to Liverpool. So he belongs in that remains to be seen category. I think he could still develop into this elite player that we all thought he would be, but this year it's obviously been tough for him. Definitely just a year of growth for him, hopefully, and Liverpool will be hoping for that for sure. Maybe we'll see next year. Maybe it's not Arne Slot in charge. Maybe it's Xabi Alonso, who you can make the argument discovered Wirtz and turned him into the best version of himself. So maybe that could turn everything around for Florian Wirtz. So I think he definitely belongs in that remains to be seen category. It would be too harsh to put him in the failure category yet, for sure. Next up, we've got Nick Voltemeda. This is a really, really difficult one because he has shown flashes. When he first arrived at Newcastle, I was like, oh damn, Newcastle paid a lot of money for this guy. He wasn't their first choice, but maybe he might just turn into something. But since then, he's kind of been in and out of the team. They've tried to play him in different positions, and it just hasn't really worked. He's got 9 goals this year. It's nothing to be bonked at. It's not terrible, especially considering he's missed games. He's been out of the team. It's pretty fine. But he's gone 14 Premier League games without a goal, and I just don't know if he's ever going to be that guy. I just don't know if he's ever going to get close to Alexander Isak. And that ultimately comes into a little bit because he was like the direct replacement for Isak. We're obviously going to have to compare him to Voltemeda. And Voltemeda is just not near the level that Alexander Isak was at. He is not a world-class centre forward like Alexander Isak is. So unfortunately, I think Voltemeda, I hope he proves me wrong and he jumps out of this category before too long. But I think he's going into the failure category. I just haven't seen enough from him, and like just the consistent spells of struggle and just not being able to nail on a place in this team, who don't have a natural striker, who are happy to play Anthony Gordon as a false 9 rather than play Nick Voltemeda, who they spent I think £85 million on to bring to Newcastle. Like that's just a bigger sign as any that he's just not up to the mark. Maybe that'll change. Maybe those flashes that we saw earlier in the season will turn into something consistent. But unfortunately for Voltemeda, for now, he does have to go into the failure category. Next up, we've got the mean, lean Joe Pedro machine. And for me, he has been top drawer. Get him up there alongside Martin Zubamendi. Joe Pedro has been fantastic this year. It's always huge when you take that step up from a middling or lower level Premier League team to a top team that are expecting to win, that are playing in the Champions League. You're expected to do it 3 times a week. You're expected to deliver. And Joe Pedro has really stepped up. All of his goals have come from open play. He's got 14 league goals this year. All of them from open play. He's also added 5 assists. Like, he's just got a serious amount of quality. He leads the team in goals and assists in the Premier League. He has been absolutely fantastic for them. Also chipped in with a few goals in the Champions League as well. Another out of that competition now. But he didn't look like it was a level above him at all. He's improved on the production that we saw him deliver at Brighton last year. And that's so huge. He made the step up and he produced at a higher level. Like, that's the ultimate sign of a successful signing. And yeah, you maybe say, oh, I wish he had scored more goals, but especially earlier on in the year or earlier on in the season when he was kind of in and out of the team a little bit, he hasn't got that consistent run. Obviously, he has over the last while, but earlier on in the season, maybe if they gave him that more consistent run, he'd be even closer to 20 goals by now. He is Chelsea's number one striker. He has absolutely left Liam Delap in the dust, the other striker that they signed this past summer. And without him, who knows where Chelsea might be. He has really kind of helped them keep them afloat with the struggles we've seen from Cole Palmer. You think about that hat-trick away against Aston Villa, like how crucial could that win be between now and the end of the season? It's only time will tell, but I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is the fact that he's made the step up from a team like Brighton to a team like Chelsea. And not only has he delivered what he delivered for Brighton, he's actually jumped up a level and he's scoring goals at a higher rate and all from open play, which is an even bigger credit to him. He's not on penalties. That's Cole Palmer's duty. Joe Pedro, absolutely top drawer. Fantastic signing by Chelsea. Next up, we've got another Newcastle boy. It's Jon Vissa. It's been rough for Vissa. Obviously, injuries have played a huge part. Didn't have a pre-season. missed, I think, the first 13 games of the year. It was something like that. It was a pretty high number that he missed with that knee injury. And then since he's come back, he just has not been able to nail down that form. He hasn't been that consistent force that we saw at Brentford. That was what Vissa was coming in and be like, yeah, maybe he's not going to be as good as Isak. Maybe he's not going to be our starting striker, but this is a guy who's proven that he can score goals at the Premier League level, and we're just not seeing it now. He's got 3 goals total for the season. He's not even getting in the team when Voltemeda has been dropped. That's the biggest worry. Like he's still there and he's still on the bench even when Voltemeda is not playing. So the fact that he's another striker at Newcastle who they're willing to bench in favor of a Anthony Gordon as a false 9. Even Osalu has started a couple of games. Like the fact that they're both falling below when there's no other real competition for them, I think that's a real indictment of the struggles that these guys are having. So unfortunately, as much as I want to say it remains to be seen because of the injuries this year, I think we have to put Vissa into the failure category alongside his teammate Nick Voltemeda. Yeah, maybe he can make that jump up next year. Maybe this will be calling it too soon. But yeah, for this season, it's absolutely been a bust of a signing. Unfortunately, Vissa really hasn't been able to get anything close to the player that we saw at Brentford. Here's just a completely random one. There isn't much to say here because we haven't really seen him playing much, and that's Tyler Dibbling. And yeah, I'm throwing him up into the remains to be seen category. Still such a young player, but he hasn't really got any sort of run of it at Everton. You could easily maybe throw him into the failure category, but just think as a 20-year-old, Everton have signed him for the future. He's only played in bits and parts. I don't even know how many. He's barely started a Premier League game, if he even has it all. So I think remains to be seen is a fair category for him. It'd be harsh to drop him into the failure category because he just hasn't got the run of it. Young player, remains to be seen. Let's see what he does over the next 1, 2, 3 seasons, and then we'll be able to really make a judgment on him. Okay, next up, another big one for Arsenal, Eberechi Eze. Really interesting one. It feels like he hasn't got enough of a run in the Arsenal team. He is that he could be that X factor. He could be that creative spark. I mean, you could throw him into a lot of different areas here. I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you probably want him in the top drawer category purely for his 2 performances against Spurs alone. Obviously, a hat-trick in the home game and a brace in the away game, which has pretty much made up all of his goals that he's got for Arsenal so far this year. But I think a good place for him is the successful category. I honestly think he hasn't got enough of a run at Arsenal. I think he deserves more opportunity. I think he could be that X factor for them, and I hope. It's obviously difficult now. There's obviously word on the street that this calf injury of his is a little bit more serious than originally thought, and he could be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So that could be a blow to Arsenal. It's going to be interesting to see what they do without him. Obviously, Odegaard's been in and out of the team as well. It's just a shame he hasn't been able to nail down that number 10 spot at Arsenal. I think Arteta should have given him a bit more license and a few more starts. He obviously started a decent amount of games, but I think he should have got more of a run. And I think he is that X factor for Arsenal. I think he belongs in that successor category. Just for those performances against Spurs alone, I'm happy to give it to him. Also delivered in the game against Palace. Always big when a player can still deliver against his old club. I know Arsenal are a bigger team than Palace and all that, but it's still big for him to be able to deliver in that way. And of course, the goal against Leverkusen was absolutely fantastic. Who knows how important that might have been? Arsenal were getting frustrated. It felt like the keeper was saving everything. Leverkusen had all the answers to other attacks, and then Eze just stepped up with that absolute pearler of a strike. One of the best strikes we've seen all season. That goal against Leverkusen, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, maybe I'm calling him successful a little bit too early, but I just think he's delivered in a pretty big way, and I think Arsenal noticed that his absence on Sunday in a big way, and I think we're ultimately only going to see the better from Eberechi Eze from here on out. Next up, we got another interesting one. 2 Liverpool boys in a row coming here. First up, we have Alexander Isak. And this is really tough because I thought it was a great signing. I know Liverpool obviously broke the bank to be able to sign him, but Isak was absolutely one of my favourite players in the Premier League over the last couple of seasons since he's came into the league. And I really believed in this move and I thought it was a great signing for Liverpool. It's a shame that he obviously slowly was maybe sort of trying to find his feet. It was still pretty slow going. He still hadn't nailed down that strike spot. He still hadn't found that form that he had for Newcastle. Obviously, it comes in that he had a couple of injuries, a couple of knocks, didn't really have a proper preseason. that obviously comes into it. That obviously is never easy for any player. But it just as like the moments maybe were turning where he was kind of trying to finally get out of that, goes down with a serious injury. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be back before the end of the year. So you could easily show him in the failure category because he came in for such a huge fee and what he actually has delivered on the field. But for me, he's going into the remains to be seen category. I think he will ultimately deliver at Liverpool. I do believe in this player's talent. I do believe that Alexander Isak is one of the best strikers in world football when he's healthy. And I think Liverpool will continue to see that. And unfortunately, it's not going to be this year, but I think hopefully he's fit and ready. Hopefully he's fit and ready to go from the start of next season, and then we're really going to see the best of Isak again, and we're really going to see that player who maybe outside of Haaland is the most sure-on thing to score 20 goals a season in the Premier League. There, I think that actually is Alexander Isak, in my opinion. Remains to be seen. Good spot for him. I know it's been tough, Liverpool fans, but I still think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I think Isak will deliver for you guys eventually. Next up, Hugo Ekitike. You could put him in the top drawer. I think he might ultimately get up into the top drawer category as time goes on, but I'm going to slip him into the successful category. Maybe this is me being a little bit harsh, but I just think there's been too many droughts of him not delivering. He's obviously done great. Young striker, first season in the league, has been forced to maybe play more games than he might have thought because Isak's injury. But 16 goals and 6 assists in all competitions is an absolutely fantastic return. I fully expect him to reach the 20-goal mark between now and the end of the season, as long as that injury isn't too serious. I haven't heard about him pulling out of the France squad, so hopefully that knock is nothing too serious. But yeah, definitely a successful signing. They paid a lot of money for him. I actually only realised doing a Sportco quiz the other week just how much money that Liverpool spent on Hugo Ekitike. But this is a guy for the now and for the future. He's had a great first year. He's definitely been a successful signing. Maybe in the conversation for Liverpool's best player this year. I know a lot of people will go to Szoboszlai. But yeah, I would have him in the top drawer category if he was just that little bit more consistent. I know it's maybe a harsh criticism for such a young player in his first year in the Premier League, but that's the only reason I've dropped him down from the top drawer into the successful category. I think over the next 1, 2, 3 seasons, we will actually ultimately come to realize that this was a top drawer signing, because I really do believe in this guy's talent. Next up, we have Matheus Cunha. This one, I think my bias is coming in just a little bit here. I'm going to be completely honest, but I'm thinking I'm going to put Matheus Cunha into the top drawer category. This may be just a little bit generous, but I think he's been fantastic this year, especially since the turn of the year. I think he's really stepped up his game, and he just has that aura. He just has something about him that he can just produce in the smallest moments and in the biggest moments, and I think that's why he belongs in this top drawer category. He has 10 goals and assists in his last 17 games. He just stepped up in such crucial moments for Manchester United. You think about even that goal away against Leeds, what he was trying to do for United when Bruno Fernandes was there. The goal against Leeds, goal against Villa. I know we ultimately lost that one, but it was still a nice goal. Then, of course, we see the assist against Manchester City. That was a great bit of play. That pass in Mbeumo in the Everton game, that was huge. The goal against Villa was absolutely fantastic. We think about the game against Bournemouth. He had Jimenez on toast in that game. Absolutely dominated, won the penalty that got us on the board. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull out the win there, but if we had, he would have been the key component of that. I just think he is such a murkier talent. He you notice when he's not in the team. I've had my gripes with Matheus Cunha this year. There's been moments where he's kind of just a default in the team and he's not really delivering, but then he just steps up in those moments and just does things that pretty much only Bruno Fernandes is capable on this Manchester United team, and that's why I think he belongs in that top drawer. He just has that swagger. He's got that, yeah, I am a Manchester United player, and yeah, I am this good. I am that guy. And Manchester United haven't had that for a while, so I think that's why I'm bumming him up to the top drawer category. Let me know in the comments what you think on that. Maybe you think he deserves to be only in the successful. Maybe you think he's even lower than that. Please let me know in the comments, but I think it's important to know the struggles that a lot of players have had coming joining Manchester United, and what he went through. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in his first few games. Like, it didn't feel like it was really happening for him. But since he went out with that injury for a couple of games earlier in the year, like, he's come back from that, I feel like he's really stepped up his game, and I just think he is that guy outside of Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United, in my opinion. So I think he deserves to be in that top drawer category. Next one, another guy that people probably don't really know too much about. That's Jamie Gittins, another English player who was playing at Dortmund, looked like he was doing pretty well. Chelsea decided to invest big money on him. He's barely played for them. He's not made any sort of impact. He's also going in the failure category. Again, it's another young player, and this is probably more just a statement on Chelsea rather than the player himself. But yeah, like, what has he done? Like, who is this guy? I've barely seen him kick a football for Chelsea. I haven't really seen him deliver in any sort of significant way. So unfortunately, he has to go into the failure category. I mean, am I being harsh? Maybe, but like, what else is it to say about a guy like Jamie Gittins, who we've barely seen anything from? Next up is Jacob Ramsey, and I'm not really sure where to go with him because he was kind of a bit part player at Villa, who you're kind of like, oh, you watch him, he's like, oh, he's actually a pretty nice player. But then you kind of, a few weeks later, you see him again, and he's on the bench, and he doesn't get on the team. And then you look at his stats in the season, he's got like 3 goals, 2 assists. You're kind of like, oh, right, maybe he's really not that much of a player. He had a bit part role at Villa where he only really shone in flashes, and he's come in and done the exact same thing at Newcastle. I mean, they haven't really given him the opportunity to do more. He hasn't really kind of stepped up a level since joining Newcastle. So, I mean, I don't really know where to go with him. It's kind of hard to call him a failure because he's kind of doing the exact same thing he did at Villa, and that was kind of what he was signed to be, just kind of be that squad player, add that little bit of depth. So, I mean, I could easily throw him into the successful category if I wanted. I could throw him into the failure category if I want. If it would all make sense. I guess I'll throw him into the remains to be seen pool. But, I mean, I really don't know in this one. This is kind of a weird one. There isn't really a good category for Jacob Ramsey because he was brought in to be a squad player, kind of do what he did at Villa, and he's pretty much doing exactly that. So there's really not too much else to say on him. Next up, Tijani Reinders. This is an interesting one because obviously he started out like a house on fire that first game against Wolves, and he looked like, oh my god, this is like the next coming of Kevin De Bruyne. That's how good he looked in terms of like creativity, getting goals, getting assists. Like, he looked absolutely fantastic. Has obviously dropped off, has kind of been in and out of the team a little bit, but I still think that he deserves to be in the successful category. He has been a good signing for City. Didn't have to break the bank to get him. He's delivered in some crucial moments. He does have a lot of quality on the ball. I think he definitely belongs in the successful category. I think he can do more, and I think he could be a key contributor for this team between now and the end of the season. He's a guy that seems to be capable of going in and out of the team and still finding a way to deliver, and that's always a huge thing for any sort of squad player, which he ultimately is. He's not like a starter. He wasn't brought in to be that be-all, end-all guy. He's brought in to be one of the bunch, and he's fit into that slot very well. So I think definitely successful, quality player. It was just a shame we don't get to see more of him, to be honest. Next up is Matheus Cunha. Now, he's had his struggles. It hasn't always been pretty, but I'm not going to call him a failure. Way too early to call him that. Way too young of a player. He has done well. I'm going to stick him into the remains to be seen category. I think they just need to mold him a little more. He just needs to be coached a little bit more. He needs to mature a little bit more. You don't want to take that kind of tenacious, rugged battler mentality away from him, but he just needs to fine-tune it a little bit more. There's certain games where that attitude and that style are going to be so big for Liverpool, and that's exactly what they're going to need from Gyokeres. But they just need to mold it and fine-tune it just a little bit more. And then once they're able to do that, we will see the best of Gyokeres. He is a quality player, really strong fullback. Got a goal against Brighton the other day with some clever thinking. He does have that quality. I fully believe that he is the man to replace Andy Robertson in the long haul. Just needs to be coached, just needs to mature that little bit more, and then we'll ultimately see the best of him. Just like a couple of other Liverpool guys. There's a few Liverpool guys in here. I know they're kind of talking about a rebuild is necessary at Liverpool and a few other things like that. But a few of these guys that are in this squad at the moment, they just need a bit of time, and they will ultimately deliver. And Gyokeres absolutely is right there along with Isak and Florian Wirtz. I do believe that he will deliver in the long haul. Then we have what some thought was going to be the blockbuster signing of the summer, Viktor Gyokeres to Arsenal. Manchester United wanted him. There was rumours that maybe even Manchester City wanted him too. Arsenal got him. And what has he done? He's been okay. He's obviously struggled for long periods. Then he's also had flashes where they're like, oh wow, this guy actually is a player. Oh wow, this guy actually can run. He actually can hold up the ball. He actually can be part of our attacks. It's just been a bit of a blur. It's kind of been a little bit all over the place. He hasn't really found that consistency. I think he will ultimately come good. I do want to believe in him. At the same time, will he ever be that 20 goal a game striker in the Premier League? Does he have that athleticism? Does he have that ability to deal with the physicality of the Premier League in the long haul? That remains to be seen. But for right now, I think we stick him in the remains to be seen category. I still think it's too early to say he's a failure, too early to say he's successful or top drawer. He still just needs some time. Next year, it's going to be really interesting to see what we get from Viktor Gyokeres. But at the same time, he's still almost definitely going to be the top scorer for the team that wins the Premier League this year. And not a lot of players are able to say that throughout their career. So I think we got to stick him in that remains to be seen category. But honestly, if Arsenal go on to win the league and he's got finishes with like 10, 12 goals, I think it's hard to not already bump him up to that successful category, because you could argue he did have a big impact on Arsenal finally winning the league title. Next up is Django Ouattara. This is a really interesting one. He kind of came out of nowhere. Brentford made the move for him after their sales of Mbeumo and Vissa. And he's just that guy that comes in and just brings that little bit of flair, that little bit of X factor. Don't get me wrong, I think he's absolutely at his level. I don't see him making the jump up to a Newcastle or a Villa or a Manchester United or an Arsenal or etc. etc. I think he's at his right level now. He doesn't deliver consistently huge goal or assist returns, but he just has that little bit of something about him, that little bit of X factor that it'll be a random Monday night football where Brentford are playing Everton, and all of a sudden he'll have 2 goals and an assist and he'll look like the best player in the world. That's what Ouattara is, and that's exactly the type of player that Brentford needed. And he's come in and filled that role. Obviously, they pay big money for him. It might have been even their record transfer. Not 100% sure on that. I think he may have been their record transfer. 5 goals, 3 assists, but he just had, like I said, it's the X factor. He provides that X factor for this Brentford team, and obviously they're having a great year, and I think he's been a huge part of it, along with some other guys like Jordan Henderson and obviously Thiago. He's been the main man for them. Ouattara's kind of been more of a squad player compared to like the real stars of the team, but I think he's come in and done exactly what he was supposed to do. So I think he's going to go in the successful category. Good signing for Brentford. He's playing right at his level. He delivers somewhat consistently. Maybe I'm bumping up into successful. Maybe it's a bit too high, but I think he brings a lot to Brentford that no one else on the team is bringing. So I think that's why he goes into that successful category. All right, we're getting down to the bare bones of it here. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. As always, make sure you let me know in the comments what you guys think on all this. Next up, we have Alejandro Garnacho. There was a long time where I was like, this guy is the future at Manchester United. Watching him play and the flashes that we saw, you think of that overhead kick against Everton. You think of that assist that he got for Rashford in the Manchester derby. You just think of the nearly moments, that goal against Fulham right before the World Cup in Ten Hag's first year. There was moments where you truly believed that this was the next coming. This was like the next star for Manchester United. But he just slowly but surely stopped, never really kind of broke through that seal of being that consistent goal threat, assist threat, consistent creator. He just never hit that, and ultimately turned into a bit of a baby. Started just have a negative impact on the squad, and Manchester just looked and said, right, let's just cash in on this player. Thankfully, Chelsea paid us 40 million for the privilege, and it's looking like a great deal for Manchester United so far, I'm not going to lie. He has 2 goals total in the Champions League and Premier League. He's provided 4 assists. He still hasn't even nailed down a starting position in this Chelsea team under either manager, despite the fact that no one else has really shone in that left wing position. It feels like it's kind of open for business, and somehow Garnacho still has not been able to nail down a starting spot on this Chelsea team. I think that says a lot about his character, just the actual level of quality of that player that he is. And just, I think his attitude as a whole, that was a big question mark at Manchester United. I think his head is up his ass, and that's why, unfortunately, he belongs alongside Mr. Jamie Giddings in the failure category. it's tough with Chelsea when all they seem to do is sign these young players, and signing and signing and signing. And kind of like, how are all these guys meant to fit in? So again, Garnacho only comes in the same way with like Hato and Gittins did. It's like, this is ultimately like the fault of Chelsea for just signing so many players. How is everyone meant to get a game and have an impact? But yeah, that 40 million Manchester United got for Alejandro Garnacho as of right now is looking like a fantastic deal for them. Next up, Noni Madueke. And there was like flashes at the start of the year where they're like, wow, we haven't seen this. We didn't see this at Chelsea. This is a guy who was signed for big money to effectively be a backup. Maybe challenge Martinelli and Trossard for the left wing start, but really to be a backup to Saka, which they obviously didn't really have last year. And there was flashes and there's been moments, but for the most part, he doesn't really deliver. He's a bit similar to Kudus. When he's good, but when he's bad, he's really bad, and he just doesn't have that consistency in his game at all. Still a relatively young player, and I do like the energy that he plays with. I do like the pizzazz that he has. Like, he came on in the game in the final against City, and he just tried to do some stuff. Like, it ultimately didn't work out, but it was nice to see him try and do some things. I think it'd be a little bit harsh to put him in the failure category. I think I'd understand if people wanted to put him in the failure category because it was big money and he hasn't really delivered in any sort of consistent way. But I'm going to throw him into the remains to be seen category because at the end of the day, he was signed as a backup. He shouldn't be relied on to deliver major goals and assist returns because he is ultimately a squad player. He is coming off the bench more than he's starting games. So I think we're going to see more from Madueke, and hopefully we start to see him develop into a bit more of a consistent threat like we have seen from Trossard. Trossard has developed into that more consistent threat since they brought him in from Brighton. There was moments when he first joined where everyone was kind of like thinking that, oh, this guy's slow, like what is he doing in this team? And now he's turned into a crucial member of this squad who consistently delivers goals and assists. Not at the level maybe that they need, but like at a level better than anyone else that's playing his position in the Arsenal team. So he's nailed down pretty much that starting left wing spot. And I think Madueke can maybe get there as well. It remains to be seen. And finally, another big one from Manchester United, Mr. Bryan Mbeumo. And let's finish it out with some positivity. He's going in the successful category. Bryan Mbeumo has absolutely been a successful signing for Manchester United. He has struggled a little bit to find his form since returning from the African Cup of Nations, but you think the big moments where he has stepped up, scored away against Arsenal, scored the opening goal against City, that crucial goal against Spurs, we were playing against 10 men and we really just need that deadlock to be broken. He was the man who delivered. He's having to play out of position a little bit, having to play through the middle rather than out off the right, which I think is his preferred position. He's having to do a job for the team. He is still our joint top scorer for the year. Absolutely has to be considered a successful signing. One thing that I didn't understand about him is just how good his first touch is. I watching more closely in games. There's certain times where he just takes the ball out of the sky, or he has a rocket hit him and it's instantly under his control. His first touch is absolutely superb. I think he's going to continue to deliver for Manchester United. It's going to be interesting to see as we move forward, the end of this season into next year. Does Sesko really nail down that starting striker role, so then Mbeumo gets to play more on the right, or will he lose that battle to Ahmad, or will he continue to be used more as a central striker? It's going to be interesting to see how things go moving forward, but he absolutely has been a successful signing for Manchester United. He was the first one to really break out earlier in the year. It's a shame that it kind of had to get disrupted by AFCON, but you hope that he can regain the form and continue to be like a clutch player like he has been, delivering in some of the biggest moments this season for Manchester United. 100% a successful signing. Anyone who's trying to say anything different, you're just lying to yourselves. But yeah, that does it. That's the list. That's the 25 most expensive signings in the Premier League last year. Every player that went for 35 million or more. That's what I consider the major signings. I know there's a few guys that are probably left off this list. I'm interested to see where you guys would put the likes of a Ryan Shirky or a Ryan Aït-Nouri or a Sonny Lamans. Let me know in the comments. Enjoy the international football. Big game for the Republic of Ireland against the Czech Republic on Thursday. I'll be tuning in for that one. Let's go. Come on, you boys in green. But until next time, guys, as always, make sure you like and subscribe. Peace out.